Yra Maria Sødahl, filmo VILTIS režisierė ir mes tęsime pokalbį anglų kalba. Tai vėlgi kviečiu visus aktyviai komentuoti po mūsų Facebook postų ir komentaruose galite rašyti klausimus ir aš jas perduosiu režisieriai ir taip galėsime daryti tokį visiškai naują, bet manau šiuo metu labai svarbų susitikimą virtualiai. So Maria Sødahl, I was just telling for people that actually you're the first Kino PAVASARIS guest, and it's going to be the first Q&A. So it's quite thrilling, and at the same time, it's a great pleasure to have you here. And thank you so much for accepting it, even in this, very complicated measures.
Thank you for being invited. It's quite fun to be a test rabbit in a laboratory. I'm happy to be here, and I'm really happy that the festival is actually that you've made the effort to make it digital, so people can, in these very difficult times, be able to watch movies. Thank you.
It's a big challenge indeed, and I think also for you now to be doing this Q&A with me, but not with the full audience, and not with the full whole of people that just watched your film. It's quite interesting, strange, but I think that it's interesting, and maybe it's talking a lot about how festivals will be happening in the upcoming months and all around the place. So I just watched that, I just checked the numbers that so far in Lithuania there are over 400 people that saw the film already. So I believe among people that are watching this translation, this broadcasting now, there are people that saw the film already. But I think that we can try speaking without spoilers so that people can also enjoy this conversation, the ones that are still going to watch the film. But I would like to start from a few questions from my side, and I hope that you don't mind that I will ask something that has been asked in all the interviews that have been with you out there, and it's not a secret that this film is based on your personal experience. And my question is whether it was difficult to come back to the story of yours on the screen, and maybe what was the reason behind it, why you felt an urge to sort of recreate your experience and to share it with the audiences.
Actually, it's a movie that I did not want to make because I had this quite or very important serious diagnosis of cancer, which is not a spoiler, and with very, very bad expectations for surviving. And then after some years, death was cancelled, and I was a survivor. And I thought, I really wanted to be able to work again and to make movies and to write and to, if you have a profession which needs passion, it was nice to survive, but it was also very, I felt a big sorrow for not being able to work because I was not able in the very beginning. So I did not want to make the movie of my story because I thought it was too private, which scared the hell out of me. And I also thought it might become very sentimental. So I had to wait long enough time to make it personal instead of private. And that means to have a distance and to make a story about where the cancer is the motor of the film, but it's not the film. The film is more about life than death. It's a love story, actually. It's a very strange love story told through one week in my life. So looking back on this, the story is told through the very, very, I think, very strong potential which lies in memories. because memories is not like from A to, you know, the whole story. Memories is like crystal clear spots, which I think brings up, it's like the sense of it is so substantial as it makes things universal. The memories are often, you know, sentiments which are very universal. So that's how I've come about working with it. That was the key to the project, kind of.
But memories is not only sentiments, it's also, maybe in your case, it was also very painful experiences. Was it difficult to convince yourself to sort of come back to the state of mind in order to recreate the, you know, like convincible characters and convincible sequence of all the events that happened? In a way, you have to. So my question is whether, yes, was it difficult to come back also with your mind to the same to the things that happened for you in the past?
I think that in this case, there was enough time between when things happened and when I started really working with it. It was 3-4 years afterwards. But of course, the writing stage in the process, I guess one could say, had some therapeutic value. You know, going through all these emotions and going through things, because I made a really bold decision not to fake anything, not to, you know, I wanted to go to all the things which were shameful, painful, also very funny, lots of dark humor in this, because of its, that's how it was like. So yes, that was painful, but and challenging, and also a lot of fun, because when you look back, it's like, shit, did I do that? You know, you look at yourself from a distance, and then you're able to create fiction also, which was very important. So when I had, you know, it took quite a few years to get the script together, but at the moment the script was there and the story was there and it had its own life. I became a director, very professional. And it was never a question for the actors that they were like portraying somebody who had existed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was very good. Yeah.
As you mentioned, the actress Andrea Breinhovic, was it difficult to cast someone to act you, which later became not you, as you said, but still, were you considering many actresses until you found her?
Yeah, I was. I didn't know who she was, not like which actress it was. I didn't know who she was as a character. And I was, because I had been away from the business for 7-8 years, I was really curious to see what had happened to people I had seen at a younger stage, you know, how they had developed. So I casted like maybe 15 actresses between 40-50 years old. And I was looking for talent, the most talented actress. And what she might look like, I didn't know. But, you know, somebody who convinced me, who had enough colors to be in every frame for a whole movie, you know, and somebody who had the energy which the movie needs, and who is fun to collaborate with, and also has somebody who had an unsentimental view on life, because that was very important for me, that both the main actors had this kind of gaze. So she is not, she's really not, and I think consciously or non-consciously, I think I was looking for somebody who was not like me in my, you know, physics or even in my energy, you know, find somebody who had something else so that I could be amazed. Yeah.
So somebody in the comments is asking, because I believe many people have heard that this is somehow connected with your personal story, but the question is how actually the events, the 11 days that we see in the film, how is it close to your actual experience, and how much is created for the sake of the I don't know, continuity of the script and so on and so on. So can you a little bit give us, show us some light on the how accurate was the story in the film?
Actually, it's really peculiar, but it's so close. It happened during this Christmas. I had my first cancer the Christmas before. The diagnosis came the 23rd of December. I had an operation the 2nd of January the following year. So all the medical sort of storyline is very accurate. And I have 6 children together, step and my own. I was married on New Year's Eve. I had a birthday on New Year's Eve. And it's like I had to take things away because it became too much. So I had to remove things so that it didn't seem too plotted, kind of. Yeah, that's just very strange. So what is not, what is fiction is, I'm a film director. My now husband is also a film director, and he's not a theater instructor, and I'm not a choreographer. The age difference is 20 years in the movie instead of 10 in reality. And of course, the characters surrounding, the modern family, which is extended. Most of those characters are, 3 persons into one, etc. But they have their origins are there, kind of. So, and the father is also very much part of my own history. Yeah.
I was thinking that if in your place was some other director that didn't have the same experience, probably he or she would make a huge research, including doctors and probably patients that have cancer and so on and so on. You didn't have to do it. But I wonder whether there was still in the writing process when you were writing the script for this film, what was the research? Probably it was involving your close people, your family and friends, because even though the film is from your perspective, but we sort of managed to see also the perspectives of the other people, the way they saw you and the way we suppose the feelings that they felt. How much did you speak with your close people while writing the script?
A lot. During those 11 days, in reality, I was really, really high on steroids, which made you totally self-absorbed. The medicine makes you self-absorbed, but also the situation of dying makes you quite self-absorbed. So seeing myself from outside, who I was in my children's gaze and in my husband's gaze was, I had no idea. But I could imagine that I was a hell of a lot to deal with. So when I sort of saw that I had no way around writing this story, I also realized it was not only about me, and I had to have a kind of permission to, an allowance to deal with this. So which I had to ask for. And I guess in a sense they had no choice, maybe, because I was very unhappy for not being able to work. And this was the only thing I could do at this stage. Nothing else was interesting. So, it was transparent. The process with reading the script, but they had no voice but they were following the process, and I was asking, but they couldn't decide anything, or my husband could not. And then the children, I had like interviews with them, lunch one-on-one, asking for, how did they remember a certain scene or setting, and the remembrance was totally different, depending on which age they were in and what they remembered. And that in itself is really interesting, how such experiences, that's another movie kind of. So, yeah, but still, although they give you the allowance, it's reading a script is very different from seeing a movie about something which is not totally fiction. So I think they will never look upon it as an ordinary movie. I don't think. No. So it's not only been a process for me, but for my family as well.
And so probably another level is also projecting the story of your relationship with your husband on the screen as well. It's sort of like for me, this 11 days in Anya's life was like also remembering, also recollecting what was the relationship all about, all their life that they spent. Probably was it 20 years that they had together. But these are also not the easiest things to speak about and to sort of examine them on the screen again. I wonder how was your husband's experience of again maybe living through these questions that we see the couple raising in the peak of their conflict, at the peak of the crisis. Was it difficult for your husband as well to sort of live through it?
I can't speak for him, actually, or my kids. I can speak about the process, but and the movie has my perspective. But I mean, we are still married, so that's an answer in a way. But it's. I think this is a love story, and a different kind of love story. Where you tell the story of a long relationship within 10 days. So it's a portrait of a couple in a way. And I think that's the only thing which is interesting, because cancer movies have been made, especially in the States, for ages. So I think, I think it's maybe that is, I have been having so many screenings and so many Q&As with this movie, and when people come into the movies, they think, oh, I'm going to watch a cancer movie. This is going to be tough. And they come out and say, this was a love story. Yeah. And that makes me really happy, because that's my intention, to tell a story about two people who are not aware that they're becoming part of a love story, that they're main characters in a love story.
Somebody in the comments, Rasa, her name is Rasa, the spectator, she's telling that this film allowed her to completely disattach from reality that we're living now, and she got completely somehow overwhelmed by the film. And it's completely true. I remember when I watched the film, it was a late night, and I remember not being able to sleep for a good 3 hours, because it's something that completely shocks you from the inside. And it's not because of only of the cancer story, and which ends in a very open way, but I think that the relationship struck me even more. And another question coming from the audience is about the other actor, about the Stella Skarsgård, who's basically a very famous actor in Sweden. And I wonder, like, maybe speaking about more about the casting project, because the question is whether it was difficult to convince him to play. But I know that you have a longer relationship with him in a professional and friendship way. But tell us maybe of your expectations for the actors, what you were looking at them for these roles.
I think ironically, Stellan was connected to the project as the first actor. Well, it should have been the main role, which was the actress, you know, but he was there first of several reasons. Because I knew it had to be him very early. And this is because I wanted it to be him because I think that he was able to defend a character who could become very like passive. Instead, he defends the character as somebody who contains an inner life with very, very small nuances, very and dares to do this, and dares to, maybe people thinking that he's an asshole, that he doesn't act enough, you know, all this to keep this it's like almost like a bomb, you know, you're just waiting. When is he gonna react? And also because he himself has experience, he has 8 kids. He has an ex-wife who had cancer, so we know what it's about. So he didn't have to do any research. He could use his own experiences. And I also think that he, who is a very phlegmatic character in this movie, not in private, but in this movie, together with Andrea, it was all about, you know, when I had him, it was also about finding who she was in, you know, as a couple with him. And I think they're very much an odd couple, which I like a lot. I like to watch them. Yeah, I like to watch them walking in the hospitals. I like to, I believe in them because they're an odd couple. I believe in them. So, yeah. And we did never, you know, rehearse. They had the same kind of way of making, wanting to work, which was fine. So it's not a lot of improvisations in the movie, but it's a lot of different colors while we were shooting. That we made lots of versions and very playful, and we laughed a lot. It's a very sad movie, but in many ways. But we laughed a lot about, you know, the character's shortcomings, you know, the prosaic part of it, and also the it's a beauty in sadness as well, you know, in unhappiness, and also I think that they are very trained actors, both of them, and to bring together a cast with a lot of children who are amateurs, and the father who's a lyric, actually a writer, Arthur, her friend, the designer, scenographer, he is a theater instructor in reality. So there are almost the only 2 actors in the movie, because all the doctors are real doctors.
Wow.
All the nurses are real nurses. There is no actors within those. So we were really like looking for how to find something, filmatic language, which felt really, really true. How do you do that? You know, you know, what makes something feel true? And I think you know, we did never know, and I never knew, and I still don't know. But I feel audience, they say so. It felt really, they felt they were there, that they've been into this place and this home and this. I think, We had all different kinds of ways to try to find this universe through both acting and the way we edited it. We used no film score. There's no film score. And people don't, when I say this, and they say, but there were a lot of music there. Yes, but it's only source music. And that I knew I was going to do very early, not to have a film score. Because a story like this could also become like really cheesy cancer story with violence and yeah.
I just wanted to read another comment that Odette wrote on Facebook. She's writing, thanks for the different and sincere perspective on bonus families and their experiences. And I believe she means when the children there are from both sides. And indeed, actually, the atmosphere in the film, this family life, it's a dream family, with all the all the minuses and all the imperfections. But the love that we see on screen is something so genuine and so real that it's that puts the balance on the, as you mentioned, the sad story, and which makes this film very, very special. But maybe I'd like to ask another question for the end, because we are nearing to the end of the broadcasting. I think the movie also gives us a very broad perspective on the health system and healthcare system, and we see different institutions that you're approaching as a patient. Anya's character is approaching as a patient, and I believe that also is something to do with your personal experience. But is it? Did you really face something like that the actual official or private hospitals, they're failing to give people what they actually need in that situation, and only volunteers are probably the ones that can support you much more than the others?
Firstly, this is no private hospitals in the movie. It's only state. Yeah, so it's actually university hospitals. Very, very good hospitals. But the movie has 17 healthcare characters. And yes, I have done a lot of research because I've been in and out as a patient for 7 years. So I have seen a lot. And the movie is not, it's not a critique towards doctors. Specific doctors or, in the movie. It's more a critique, if it's any critique, because it's also in awe of, the system. It is the system which makes it difficult for the doctors to do a good job. Because it's, so many meetings, you have only one doctor, and then you have another doctor, and then you have a third and fourth. And that's really frustrating when you're dying, when you're gonna die, when it's the end. So, but I think I'm really fascinated about who's behind those white clothes, because they're individuals, and they have a story before they come into the scene. They've had a bad day, they've had a quarrel at home, or they're very happy, and now they're going to deliver a really bad message. As working with cancer is a really, really challenging job, especially with lung cancer, where the messages are like 99% bad, and that does something to you. So casting these doctors who are in the movie, which were volunteer doctors, there were like 170 who wanted to be a part in front of the camera, which was interesting. And we ended up using 17, in the movie. I think they were the best, my best audience to make this real, because they perfectly well understood the characters and the way they do the wrong things all the time, because that's what they do. And that's what happens often when you write stories you don't know anything about. And you make these doctors like really empathetic and really, that's not, they're ordinary people, and they're psychopaths even within the hospitals, who work. It's society. And I think that's important. And the reactions from the hospital world has been enormous. And they're going to use the movie in education of doctors and nurses, etc. You know, because this is life situations, and how do you deal with this? You don't learn that in your medical studies. You learn by life, you know, and yeah.
And Anya is it's such a broad expression of someone that is on the other side, someone that has to receive the news that doctors are delivering. I remember that scene when she's speaking with her dentist and saying that this is too late.
Yeah.
I don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
It's something incredible. But so the film, as you mentioned, has been a great success all over the place. Are you working on something else? Because I wish we can invite you in a year or two with your new film to be present in Vilnius.
Yeah. Ironically, I'm on writing. We were just in Berlin, and after Berlin, I like, okay, now starts a new age for me. And I have a project of portraying a young woman of 19, 20 years old, doing her educational journey to Mexico, the modern educational journey. But now with the coronavirus, I don't know how that story will look like, to be honest. You know, it's at a very early stage, and it's interesting. Maybe it's a very good idea to make that story. And on the other hand, I'm not able to travel and do my research, which was planned this spring. So we'll see what happens, if that's a project which will come alive or not.
It's incredible how this situation is changing the scenarios, not only of our real lives, but also of the movies.
Yeah, yes.
Movies.
It's a lot, you know, what will become relevant. Yeah.
No. But I hope somehow that this will not last and we will manage to cope with the situation. And I also hope that your new movie will not take long to make. And maybe one day I'm going to see you here in Vilnius.
And
I wish for everyone that were watching this Q&A, the virtual Q&A, to see the film if you haven't done yet. And if you did, we have plenty of other great films online. And thank you so much for being part of this festival, which is not happening the way it had to happen, but it's still happening. And we're happy that you're here to support. And we're happy for you, Maria, that you accepted our invitation and joined us this evening. So thank you so much. And
thank you so much to you as well. Thank you.